I just sold every single share of YETH. That's over 4,700 shares worth more than $50,000. And here's the crazy part. I didn't sell because I stopped believing in Ethereum. I didn't sell because I think crypto is dead. But after collecting $4,786 in dividends in just 87 days, I decided it was time to walk away. Today, I'm going to explain exactly why, because I think the biggest lesson from this story has absolutely nothing to do with Ethereum. It has everything to do with portfolio management. Let's dive in. I initially bought YETH back in early March this year. I started with 300 shares, and then after seeing the kinds of dividend payouts they were making, I quickly sized up to a monstrous 4,700 shares worth over $50,000. The craziest part, even after taking a loss on the share price, I still walked away with a positive return. Stay on to the end to hear my total ROI on YETH after factoring back in dividends. So before I explain why I sold, I need to explain what I actually owned, okay? YETH is not Ethereum. It's an ETF designed to generate income from Ethereum exposure using a synthetic cover call strategy. And I won't get into the mechanics of cover calls in this video because that's a topic all by itself. But if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments below. And the important thing to understand is this. I wasn't buying YETH because I thought it was a magic dividend machine. I didn't buy it because I was looking for another stock. I was looking for income. And at the time, I'd just been laid off. My investments weren't just numbers on the screen anymore. They had a job to do. They needed to help pay my bills while I figured out what came next. Ethereum is now down over 30%, and I'm not happy about it. So why do I believe in Ethereum? To answer that question, I actually have to back up for a minute because I don't want to, confuse you and lead you to believe that I just woke up one morning and randomly bought 4,700 shares of YETH. No, every investment starts with a thesis. Here's mine. So very simply, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum solve two different problems. I view Bitcoin as digital property, a scarce digital asset, because there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. You can't really say the same about the United States dollar. We print new money every day, and if more financial activity moves onto blockchain networks, Ethereum has an opportunity to become a foundational layer of that system, which naturally leads to the next question. I mean, there were dozens of Ethereum ETFs I could have bought, so why this one? Why YETH? So when I looked at the risk reward, I believed Ethereum was closer to a bottom than a top, and looking back, I was early, and sometimes being early feels exactly the same as being wrong. And if you were looking back at Ethereum in March and you were me, what would you have done? It's already down, institutions are buying, stable coins growing. At what point does something become cheap enough, right? If this content is something you'd like to see more of and are already finding it entertaining, click that like button below and subscribe. And if enough of you comment Ethereum below, I'll dedicate an entire video as to why I still believe Ethereum could become one of the most important financial technologies of our lifetime. What happened next completely changed how I think about portfolio management. And here's where the story changes. Ethereum fell another 30%. YETH followed. My margin magnified the losses on the account. Robinhood increased margin maintenance requirements. And so while nothing about my initial investment thesis had changed, I had to make a decision to protect my portfolio. And suddenly I wasn't managing an investment anymore. I was managing risk. And that's when I learned something I'll probably never forget, which is that a good investment can still be a bad position size. And if you remember one sentence from this entire video, let it be that one. So before I show you the numbers, what do you think happened? Over the 87 days that I owned YETH, the fund paid me a total of $4,786.90 in dividends. And when I eventually sold my shares, I realized a capital loss of $3,456. That left me with a total net profit of approximately $1,330.85. When you factor in margin I was using, that worked out to be roughly a 4.57% return on cash in just 87 days. Now, was it worth it? For me, the answer is yes. Not because I made over $1,300 when the dust settled, but because I gained something that I think is far more valuable than that. I learned that there's a difference between believing in an asset and building a healthy portfolio. I learned that you can be right about an investment thesis and still expose yourself to unnecessary risk if one position becomes too large. And I learned that protecting your portfolio isn't admitting defeat. Sometimes it's the most disciplined investment decision that you can make. And so, would I buy YETH again under the right circumstances? Absolutely. Would I allow it to become this large of a percentage of my portfolio again? Probably not. That lesson alone may end up being worth far more than the actual profit I walked away with. And in the end, I still own Ethereum. I still own Bitcoin. I still believe in the long-term opportunity that blockchain technology represents. But this experience reminded me of something that I hope stays with you long after this video ends, which is that investing isn't just about choosing good assets. It's about building a resilient portfolio. Looking back, Ethereum wasn't the problem. YETH wasn't the problem. Margin wasn't even the problem by itself. The real problem was allowing those pieces to come together in a way that made my portfolio too fragile. And that's a mistake I don't intend to make again. So if there's one idea I'd leave you with, it's this. Every investment decision should be evaluated twice. First on its own merits, then in the context of the portfolio it's entering. Because the goal isn't to be right once. The goal is to stay in the game long enough for your best decisions to compound. All right, I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And you may have noticed the yield ROI tracker that I've been using to keep track of the return on investment on various dividend pairs that I'm investing in. And so if that sounds like something that would be helpful for you, then see the link in the description to see how you can purchase that on ruckerinsights.com. Thanks so much again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.